guys, Andrea Renee here. I'm with Chuck. He is the story producer for Dead Space 3, and Bruce and I just got done playing some co-op, because that's all people are talking about right now for Dead Space 3, is this awesome drop-in, drop-out co-op. So today we got to see, you know, John and Isaac doing a mission together, but they didn't see the same things. I mean, can you talk a little bit about this new mechanic, this story element that you guys are introducing?
Yeah, so what you played today was a chunk of the game that is Carver's kind of dementia story. It's an exploratory mission, and in co-op what happens is, as the Carver character, you're seeing kind of Carver go through dementia, and Isaac, of course, is not. So the screens are very different when you watch that go down.
It was really, really crazy, and I'm really now, you know, interested to learn more about who John Carver is. And can you tell us a little bit about his character and how Isaac meets him?
Well, yeah, Carver is just experiencing kind of dementia on the scale that Isaac did for the first time. So he's going through all of his, like, oh my God, what is all of this? And as a character, Carver is a military man who had a wife who was secretly involved in marker research, which is a backstory that I can't quite go into because it's being released in a different thing that's about to be announced soon. But you'll learn more about Carver. He gets sucked into the markers that way through learning about his wife. He has a history with Danik, the villain of the game. And so together, at the beginning of the game, Isaac is introduced to Carver in a way that I can't disclose either. But they have a very harsh opening, let's put it that way.
Okay, well, we don't want to reveal too much about the story anyway, you know, spoilers. But I was really, like, surprised at how fluid they actually were working together. I mean, and it's really a lot easier to take down Necromorphs when you got two people instead of one. Are there any special mechanics that you're going to have when you're playing in co-op that you're not going to have in the single player?
Oh, no, there's not going to be like a specific, like, this mechanic is only available in co-op mode. The whole point of co-op is just that you get to play the single player campaign with your buddy. Like, you know, and you guys are doing it on the headphones, and you can hear what's going on, and you can ask questions like, are you seeing that? Are you seeing that? What's happening? And you can argue about pickups and go through all that kind of thing. So it's mostly meant to be that experience where you share the Dead Space experience with somebody else.
Now, I know co-op is one thing that, you know, the fans of the Dead Space franchise are a little, you know, timid about. They're not quite sure how to feel about it. So I hope that, you know, they will change their minds once they get a chance to play, because it's really awesome. But another thing that I know Machinima fans are kind of curious about and kind of questioning is this whole adaptive cover system that you guys have introduced into the game. Can you explain exactly how this is going to figure into the combat of the game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the adaptive combat system is it's sort of a soft lock cover system. It's not really grabby or sticky, so if you get into a cover object, you get close to one, it's not going to snare you and you have to kind of push a button to get out. It's if you happen to be near a cover object and are in a cover position, you'll be in cover, and then as you decide to go into aim mode and fire, you'll pop out and shoot and go back into cover, and then as soon as you move, you are out. So it's a very, very easy to use system that's not really intrusive, so they shouldn't worry too much about that. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I noticed, like, when I was playing that it didn't feel like, I mean, I didn't even, like, use the cover system a lot when I was playing it.
You were actually in it. I mean, you may not have noticed, but you were in cover as you were going, so it's kind of really automated like that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that maybe you need to, you know, mentally remind yourself that you can use cover, but certainly I know some of the people in our comments on our previous Dead Space videos were concerned that the AI wasn't going to come up and charge you the way that they normally do, and that's certainly not the case.
As you saw. The other thing I wanted to mention too, you were saying that the fans were concerned about the co-op versus the single player. You know, from what you saw, don't forget that, like, it's the same campaign, right? And it's not like co-op is forced on you or changes everything in a way that you might not like. You know, a single player is still single player. It was just you, Isaac. Right, there's not any AI Carver running around at all. It's just Dead Space. And then when you do co-op, Carver's there. So just keep in mind that there's a really different, and that's meant to be very different experiences that way.
Yeah, no, I'm glad there's co-op, because Dead Space is scary. I don't want to do it alone. But one of the other things that, you know, we kind of took some time to look at in this demo was the weapons bench, because you guys have completely expanded the weapons bench. It used to just be the bench before, and now there's, like, this complex crafting system. I mean, there's some really cool options that you guys have in there.
Yeah, it's a whole brand new feature of the game. It's as big as co-op. Essentially, we took the idea that, you know, Isaac is an engineer, and he's like going through the world, uncovering all these parts that are lying around and stuff that he's scavenging and stomping out of boxes and creatures, and he can basically make anything because he's an engineer. So you get to the bench and you can essentially build up the weapons you used to have in Dead Space 2 or a whole new weapons. You know, the whole thing has been expanded to new mechanics that are really fun and exciting to find and build and add. It's a whole other system, a whole new economy for the game.
And I noticed that you do need a lot of resources to get some of the more, cooler weapons. Is that something that is maybe you're just going to have to wait till you get farther in the game to unlock, or are you going to be able to buy resources to purchase upgrades for weapons?
Right, no, I think the main economy is you find all this stuff, and it's a fairly robust economy. It's pretty fluid, and there's a lot of it. So we don't want you to feel like you're not getting to experience the benches at all. So you're going to be kind of interacting with them quite a bit and finding a lot of stuff in there quite a bit and constantly making stuff because we want you to have fun with that. So what you find later in the game are going to be the more advanced upgrades of the core engine mechanics as you go. Right, but you're always going to be finding the core resources and tinkering with it and having a good time.
Okay, great. Now, the next question I have to ask you may be a little controversial.
Oh, good.
But a lot of our fans are making this comparison, and I want you to be able to either refute it or tell them that they're stupid or whatever, but they're saying Dead Space has become Lost Planet. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, wow. Well, Lost Planet's a great game. Really, it's a nice thing for them to compare us to. But I think it's mostly just the setting because we're in a snow planet setting. You saw from playing, yourself, like the enemies and the combat that we have is very Dead Space. The enemies will never be different. It's always going to be scary. It's always going to be enemies charging at you. You're always going to feel under pressure. You're always going to be dismembering. So the settings might be similar, but I think Dead Space is all in its own, has its own place to be for sure.
It's certainly still scary. So don't worry about Dead Space not bringing the scary.
You didn't quite scream. I thought you were going to scream, but you kind of held it back, I think, a couple times.
Well, there's a lot of people watching, I didn't want to embarrass myself. All right, so the last thing I wanted to ask you is there anything about Dead Space 3 that you want to make sure fans of the franchise know about?
Oh, wow. Well, we've covered the big ones, co-op and the weapon crafting system. And then keep in mind, it's like a bigger game. It's like the biggest game we've ever made because of the weapon crafting system requires exploratory areas. The settings are beautiful. Tal Volantis and all that stuff on the planet is all new for us. So the vistas are big and they're like kind of mind-boggling when you see them. They're very awe-inspiring. The flotilla up in space, that's another vista that's brand new. Like you're literally in like a near-Earth orbit and you're like, what, this is crazy. Look at this setting. And so it's really awe-inspiring and beautiful. So we've really pushed the boundaries of our art even further. So you should look forward to that as well.
All right, thank you so much. It was great talking with you, Chuck. And we are looking forward to Dead Space 3 coming out on February 5th. Next year, guys.
In a war where mankind's very survival hangs in the balance, it's up to each of us to make a difference.